The novice receptionist and the unforeseen millionaire. "Sir, please, you have to understand my situation," Sophia said, her voice trembling, as she stood before the elegant man who had just hung up his phone. "I didn't know you weren't Mr. Romano. It was a terrible mistake on my part." Matteo watched her from the doorway of the presidential suite, his face showing a mixture of weariness and something she couldn't decipher. He had heard the entire phone conversation, where his assistant had called him Mr. Castellanos and mentioned board meetings. "How long have you been working here?" he asked, his voice softer than Sophia expected. "Today is my first day," she admitted, feeling her hotel career ending before it even began. "I know there's no excuse for what happened. I'm going to talk to my supervisor right now to explain everything." "Wait!" Matteo raised a hand. "No one else knows about this?" "No, sir. Well, only me." "And now you." Sophia had arrived at the majestic hotel that morning with a mix of nerves and excitement. After years studying hospitality at night, while working days at a coffee shop, she had finally landed her opportunity at one of Buenos Aires's most exclusive hotels. Mr. Ruiz, the manager, had given her precise instructions. A very important Italian businessman would arrive that afternoon. Presidential suite. Maximum discretion. Sophia had noted everything carefully, but when the elegant man approached the counter, her nervousness betrayed her. "Are you Mr. Romano?" she had asked with her best professional smile. The man, who looked exhausted and troubled, simply nodded. Sophia interpreted his silence as the typical reserve of important guests. She handed him the keys to the presidential suite without verifying his identity. During the elevator ride, Sophia noticed something different about him. He didn't have the arrogant air she expected, but a sadness that moved her. When they arrived at the suite, he received that call that changed everything. "Mr. Castellanos, where are you?" the voice on the other end of the phone had said. "The board of directors is waiting for you for the crisis meeting." Now standing in the elegant living room of the suite, Sophia expected the worst. "Look," Matteo said, running a hand through his hair. "I know this sounds strange, but could you keep this between us?" "I'm sorry?" "The mistake. Don't report it. Let me stay as Mr. Romano for a while." Sophia looked at him, confused. "I don't understand, sir." "It's complicated. Let's just say I need to disappear for a while. Your mistake has given me the perfect opportunity for that." Matteo couldn't explain that he had arrived at the hotel fleeing the biggest scandal of his life. 3 days earlier, he had discovered his fiancée in bed with his younger brother. The media had gone wild with the story, and he couldn't bear another interview, another question about how it felt to be betrayed by the two people he trusted most. "But sir, if someone finds out I made this mistake, no one will find out. Promise, just let me be Mr. Romano for a while." Sophia studied his face. There was something in his eyes that reminded her of her younger brother when he was a child. Having nightmares, a vulnerability that contrasted with his successful appearance. "Are you in trouble?" she asked softly. The question caught him by surprise. It had been years since anyone had asked him how he truly felt. "Yes," he admitted, "but not the kind you think. What if the real Mr. Romano shows up? We'll worry about that when it happens." Sophia knew she was making a risky decision, but something in the way he looked at her convinced her he wasn't a dangerous man, just one who needed help. "All right," she finally said, "but I can't accept extra money for this. If I'm going to help you, it's because I think it's the right thing to do, not for a tip." Matteo smiled for the first time since he had arrived. "What's your name?" Sophia Delgado." "Nice to meet you, Sophia, and thank you." When Sophia left the suite, Elena Morales was waiting for her in the hallway. The floor supervisor, a 45-year-old woman with shrewd eyes, had worked at the hotel for 15 years and had developed a special instinct for detecting unusual situations. "Everything all right, honey?" Elena asked. Yes, of course. Why wouldn't it be? That man isn't who he says he is, Elena said, in a low voice. I've seen his face somewhere. Be careful. What do you mean? Rich people have their secrets, Sophia. And sometimes we, who work in hotels, end up in the middle of those secrets. Sophia nodded, but inside, she felt strangely protective towards the mysterious guest. She had seen real pain in his eyes, not malice. That night, as she finished her shift, she wondered what she had gotten herself into. But she also wondered why she felt she had done the right thing by helping a stranger who was clearly going through a difficult time. In the presidential suite, Mateo stayed up late, looking at the lights of Buenos Aires from the window. For the first time in days, he felt a little at peace. The young receptionist had treated him like a normal person, not like the heir to a hotel empire or the victim of a media scandal. Maybe, just maybe, he could simply be Mateo for a while. Good morning, Mr. Romano, Sophia greeted with a genuine smile when she saw him descend to the lobby. How did you sleep? Much better than I expected, Mateo replied. And it was true. It had been the first night in weeks he hadn't had nightmares about his brother and his ex-fiancée. It was his third day at the hotel, and an odd but comfortable routine had been established. Every morning, Mateo would come down to the lobby and chat with Sophia for a few minutes before going for a walk around the city. In the afternoons, he would return and sometimes stay at the hotel bar, where she would occasionally join him during her breaks. Do you have plans for today? Sophia asked, as she checked some papers at the counter. I was thinking of visiting the San Telmo neighborhood. I've never had time to get to know Buenos Aires as a tourist. Never? But don't you live in Argentina? Mateo was silent for a moment. He had almost messed up. Well, yes, but always for business, never for pleasure. It was partially true. Mateo had spent his entire adult life working, first to prove he deserved to inherit the family business, then to keep it running. He had never afforded himself the luxury of simply walking through a city without an agenda. San Telmo is beautiful, Sophia said, her eyes lighting up, especially on Sundays with the antique market. My dad used to take me when I was little. He said every old object had a story to tell. Does your dad still take you? Sophia's smile dimmed slightly. He died 3 years ago. Heart attack. I'm so sorry. Thank you. He always said that working in a hotel was like being a guardian of temporary stories, that each guest arrived with their own story and left with a new one. Mateo felt a tug in his chest. He was a wise man. Yes, he was. That's why I'm here. This job was his dream for me. Elena appeared from the housekeeping area, observing the conversation with calculating eyes. Sophia, I need you to check the 4th floor rooms, she said, but her gaze was fixed on Mateo. Of course, Elena. Mr. Romano, have a good day. When Sophia walked away, Elena approached the counter. Enjoying your stay, sir? Romano, Mateo said, maintaining eye contact. Of course, Romano. Elena smiled, but her eyes remained cold. I hope you find everything you're looking for in Buenos Aires. There was something in Elena's tone that put Mateo on alert, but he nodded politely and left the hotel. That afternoon, as Sophia organized some documents at reception, Elena sat beside her. That man looks familiar to me, she said without preamble. Mr. Romano? Yes. I've seen his face somewhere, and I don't think it's in the context he wants us to believe. Sophia felt a knot in her stomach. What do you mean? Rich men who hide in luxury hotels for weeks don't do it for vacation, honey. They're either running from something or planning something. Maybe he just needs to rest. For 3 weeks? Without receiving visitors? Without going out more than to walk? Elena shook her head. And another thing, have you noticed how much he knows about hotel management? Yesterday I heard him talking to the concierge about reservation systems, as if he were an expert. Sophia had noticed that too. Every time they talked about how the hotel operated, he seemed to know exactly what he was talking about, even suggesting improvements that sounded very professional. "Do you think we should tell Mr. Ruiz?" "Not yet. But keep your eyes open. And Sophia, be careful. I can see how you look at him." "How do I look at him?" "Like he's the protagonist of one of those novels you read on your breaks." Sophia blushed. It was true that she had started looking forward to her daily conversations with the mysterious guest. There was something about him that attracted her, a combination of sadness and gentleness that contrasted with the image she had of wealthy men. That night, Matteo stayed at the hotel bar later than usual. When Sophia finished her shift, he invited her to sit with him. "Will I get you in trouble?" she asked. "It's a public area of the hotel. Besides, I'd like some company." Sophia sat down, ordering mineral water, while he had an almost untouched whiskey in front of him. "May I ask you something personal?" she said after a moment. "Go ahead. Why are you really here? And don't tell me for business because you haven't had a single meeting." Matteo studied her for a long moment. The honesty in her eyes disarmed him. "Let's just say I needed to get away from my life for a while. Family problems? Something like that." Matteo took a sip of his whiskey. "Have you ever felt like your whole life has been planned by other people? That you've never been able to make your own decisions?" "Not exactly. My family never had the luxury of making long-term plans. We always lived day to day. That must have been difficult. Sometimes. But it also had its advantages. Every small victory felt huge, like getting this job. Is this what you always wanted to do?" "I wanted to travel, get to know different cultures, different forms of hospitality. I thought working in hotels would eventually give me that opportunity." "And what's stopping you?" "Money, mainly, and responsibility towards my family. My mom cleans houses, my younger brother is in university. I can't just leave, can I?" Matteo felt a pang of guilt. He had had all the opportunities in the world and had taken them for granted, while she had fought for every small chance. "You're admirable," he said softly. "Why?" "For continuing to dream despite the circumstances." Sophia looked at him curiously. "Don't you dream anymore?" The question hit him harder than he expected. I think I had forgotten how. They fell silent for a moment, each lost in their thoughts. "Mr. Romano," Sophia began. "Matteo," he interrupted. "Call me Matteo." "Matteo," she repeated, and she liked how his name sounded on her lips. "Do you ever think about completely changing your life?" "Lately, more than I should." When they finally said goodnight that evening, both felt that something had changed between them. It was more than the mutual curiosity of the first few days. A real connection was forming, but they also knew it was built on a lie that sooner or later would have to face the consequences. "Did you know that in Japan, it's considered rude to tip in hotels?" Matteo commented, as he and Sophia walked through the hotel's inner garden during her break. "Really?" Sophia looked at him in surprise. "How do you know so much about hotel culture in other countries?" Matteo stopped, realizing he had once again revealed more knowledge than a simple guest should have. "I read a lot," he said quickly. "I'm fascinated by different cultures." It was his 10th day at the hotel, and their conversations had become deeper and more frequent. Sophia had started looking forward to these moments as the best part of her workday. "I'd love to visit Japan someday," she sighed. "Imagine hotels where the attention to detail is so perfect that they anticipate your needs before you even have them." "And what would be your ideal hotel?" Matteo asked, genuinely curious. "Not necessarily the most luxurious," Sophia reflected, "but one where every employee truly cares about making guests feel at home, where hospitality is authentic, not just protocol." Matteo felt a pang in his chest. His hotel chain focused on the exact opposite: luxury, exclusivity, status. He had never considered hospitality from the perspective Sophia described. "Do you think I feel at home here?" he asked, testing the waters. Sophia blushed slightly. I hope so. I try to make sure you have everything you need. You do, he said softly. More than you imagine. At that moment, Matteo's phone began to vibrate insistently. It was his assistant again. Excuse me, he murmured, moving away to answer. Sir, Castellanos, the voice on the other end said, and Sophia froze. Your brother is asking to see you. He says it's urgent, and the media are asking about your whereabouts. We can't keep evading the questions. Matteo felt all the peace he had found in those 2 weeks vanish abruptly. Tell them I'm indisposed, and I don't want to see Carlos. Sir, with all due respect, the company needs your leadership. The scandal has affected our shares, and investors are... I said no. Matteo hung up abruptly and returned to Sophia, who watched him with concern. Is everything all right? Yes, just work matters. But Sophia could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he clenched his jaw. Whatever it was, it had deeply disturbed him. Do you want to talk about it? I can't, he replied, more harshly than he intended. The change in his tone hurt her, and Matteo realized it immediately. I'm sorry, Sophia, I shouldn't take it out on you. It's just that there are complicated things in my life. We all have complicated things, she said gently. Sometimes talking helps. Matteo looked at her, wishing he could tell her everything. About the scandal, about his brother's betrayal and his ex-fiancée, about how his entire life had crumbled in a single night. But how could he explain it without revealing who he really was? My family, he finally said. Let's just say expectations are high, and I recently discovered that the people I trusted most had betrayed me. Your family, my brother, and someone very important to me. Sophia saw the real pain in his eyes and felt the impulse to comfort him. I'm so sorry. It must have been terrible to discover something like that. It was. That's why I'm here, hidden like a coward. You're not a coward, Sophia said firmly. Sometimes we need to get away to process things. There's nothing wrong with that. Matteo felt a warmth in his chest he hadn't experienced in a long time. Here was this extraordinary woman, comforting him without even knowing the whole truth. How do you do that? He asked. Do what? Make everything seem less complicated. Sophia smiled. Perhaps because my life has been complicated enough to learn that the most important thing is how you treat the people in front of you in this moment. Matteo felt himself fall a little more in love with her in that instant. That night, Elena found Sophia organizing papers at reception, but noticed she had a dreamy expression. You like him, don't you? She said without preamble. What? The mysterious Mr. Romano. You like him? Sophia blushed. He's a good man. He's been through tough times. Oh, honey, Elena sighed. Men with secrets are always the most dangerous for the heart. Why do you say he has secrets? Because I finally remembered where I had seen his face. Sophia felt her blood run cold. Where? In society magazines. That man is someone important, Sophia. Very important. And if he's hiding here, it's for something big. Are you sure? Not completely, but be careful. Men like him live in a different world from ours. And when they get bored of playing normal, they go back to their world and leave us heartbroken. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. Elena's words echoed in her head, but she also remembered the genuine vulnerability she had seen in Matteo's eyes. Was it possible that it was all an act? Meanwhile, in the presidential suite, Matteo paced. His phone had rung 5 more times, and he had finally turned it off. He knew he couldn't keep evading his real life indefinitely, but he also didn't want to give up these moments of peace he had found with Sophia. For the first time in years, someone saw him for who he truly was on the inside, not for his last name or his bank account. With Sophia, he could simply be Matteo, a man trying to figure out what to do with his life. But he also knew that every day that passed made the lie bigger, and that when it finally came to light, it would hurt the only person who truly mattered to him, He stayed awake until dawn, struggling between his desire to stay in this perfect bubble and the reality that sooner or later he would have to face the consequences of his decisions. "Sophia, we have a problem," Mr. Ruiz said, his voice tense, as he quickly approached the reception desk. "Mr. Romano just arrived, but according to our records, he's already staying in the presidential suite." Sophia felt the world stop around her. It was exactly what she had been dreading for the past 3 weeks. "Mr. Romano?" she repeated, trying to buy time. "Yes, the Italian businessman. He's here in the lobby with all his luggage, asking why he can't access his suite." Sophia discreetly glanced into the lobby and saw an older man, clearly annoyed, talking animatedly with the concierge in what sounded like Italian mixed with Spanish. "I'll handle it, Mr. Ruiz." "You better. If this is a system error, we need to fix it immediately. We can't afford to lose clients of this caliber." Sophia approached the real Mr. Romano with trembling legs. "Good afternoon, Mr. Romano. I apologize for the confusion. It seems there was an error with your reservation. Allow me to check our available options." The man, about 60 years old with a strong Italian accent, looked at her with irritation. "What do you mean an error? I made this reservation 2 months ago. I need that suite for my business meetings." "Of course, sir. Let me see what we can do." Sophia knew she had to talk to Matteo immediately. She went up to the presidential suite, her heart pounding so hard she was sure everyone in the hotel could hear it. She knocked on the door softly. "Matteo, it's Sophia. I need to talk to you urgently." Matteo opened the door, and one look at her face told him everything he needed to know. The real Mr. Romano arrived, didn't he? "Yes, he's downstairs, very upset. I don't know what to do." Matteo closed his eyes for a moment. He had known this day would come, but he wasn't prepared for it. But he wasn't divorced. "Is there any other suite available?" "The executive suite on the 8th floor is free. It's not as big, but..." Tell him there was a confusion with the dates, and that, as compensation, we're offering him the executive suite at no additional cost, plus complimentary spa services. Are you sure? That's going to cost a fortune. I'll cover the expenses." Sophia looked at him, confused. "How are you going to cover—" At that moment, Matteo's phone rang. It was Elena. "Mr. Castellanos," the voice on the other end said, and Sophia froze. "There's a situation in the lobby that requires your immediate attention." Matteo looked at Sophia, whose eyes were wide. "Castellanos," she whispered. Before Matteo could respond, Elena appeared in the hallway. "Sophia, I need you to—" Matteo stopped as he saw them together. "Oh, Elena," Sophia said weakly. "You just called him Mr. Castellanos." Elena looked between the two of them, and her expression hardened. "Sophia, come with me." "No!" "Elena, I can explain," Matteo began. "Not to me, sir. To her." Sophia followed Elena to an empty employee lounge, feeling as if she were in a dream. "I knew I had seen his face before," Elena said. "Matteo Castellanos, heir to the Castellanos Hotels chain, was in all the papers last month because of the scandal with his fiancée and his brother." "What scandal?" Sophia asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer anymore. His fiancée cheated on him with his younger brother. It was a huge scandal in social circles. The media have been looking for him ever since. Sophia felt as if she had been punched in the stomach. Not only had he lied to her about his identity, but all this time he had been playing with her while processing another woman's betrayal. "How long have you known?" she asked. Since the first day," Sophia admitted. "He asked me not to say anything." "Oh, Sophia, do you realize what a position he put you in?" Sophia returned to the lobby as if in a trance. The real Mr. Romano had accepted the executive suite after being promised extravagant compensation, but she could barely concentrate on the details. That night, when her shift ended, she went directly to the presidential suite. Matteo was waiting for her. "Sophia!" "No," she interrupted. "Don't say anything yet. I need to understand something." Did you ever think about telling me the truth? Every day. But you didn't. No, and there's no excuse for that. Do you know what hurts the most? Sophia said, tears in her eyes. It's not that you're rich, or that you have a famous last name. It's that you made me believe I mattered to you, when in reality, I was just part of your escape from real life. That's not true. No? You're here hiding from a scandal with your fiancé. I was just a convenient distraction. My ex-fiancé, Matteo corrected her. And you are not a distraction, Sophia. You are the most real thing that has happened in my life in years. How can I believe you? You've been lying since day one. Because I fell in love with you, he said, his voice cracking slightly. I fell in love with your honesty, your passion, the way you see the world. I fell in love with how you make me feel when I'm with you. Sophia was silent for a moment, processing his words. And what happens now? Do you go back to your real life and pretend this never happened? I don't know. I just know I don't want to lose you. But you already lost me, Sophia said, tears streaming down her cheeks. From the moment you decided to lie to me about who you were. For you, this was a game, Matteo. A way to escape your real world while playing at being a normal person. But this is my real life, my real job, my real feelings. Sophia, please. No, you need to leave. Go back to your life, to your company, to your world. And I need to continue with mine. Matteo tried to approach, but she backed away. I love you, he said desperately. If you really loved me, you would have trusted me with the truth. That night, Matteo packed his bags. The next day, the presidential suite was empty, and Sophia tried to pretend her heart hadn't left with him. Elena found her crying in the employee bathroom during her break. It's going to hurt for a while, honey, she said, hugging her. But you did the right thing. Sophia wasn't sure about that. She only knew she felt as if she had lost something she had never truly had. Sophia, you need to concentrate, Mr. Ruiz said, for the third time that week. You've made more mistakes in the last few days than in the entire previous month. I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. But Sophia knew she was lying. 5 weeks had passed since Matteo left the hotel, and she still couldn't get him out of her head. Every time someone approached the reception desk, her heart raced, hoping to see his familiar face. Elena watched her with concern as they organized staff schedules. Still haven't heard from him? She asked softly. Why would I hear anything? Sophia replied, trying to sound indifferent. He went back to his real life, just like I always knew he would. But you haven't gone back to yours. It was true. Sophia had become a shadow of herself. Her co-workers noticed her sadness, and her family at home was worried about her change in mood. Honey, maybe you should consider that he wasn't as bad as you think, Elena said one afternoon, as they had coffee in the employee area. How can you say that? He lied to me for weeks. Yes, but I also saw how he looked at you. That man was in love, Sophia. And men in love sometimes do stupid things, like lying about who they are, like being afraid of losing the only good thing in their lives. Sophia shook her head. You can't know that. Do you remember my mother is in cancer treatment? Yes, of course. How is she doing? Much better, thank God. But there's something I haven't told you. Elena took a deep breath. Someone paid the entire hospital bill, anonymously. Sophia frowned. What do you mean? The hospital administrator called me 2 weeks ago. He said an anonymous benefactor had covered all my mother's treatment expenses. When I asked who it was, they just told me it was someone who knew our case through the hotel. Sophia's heart began to beat faster. Elena, only one person at the hotel knew about my mother's situation, because I only told one person during those weeks. You. And you mentioned it to him during one of your conversations. Sophia fell silent, processing the information. How much did the treatment cost? More than I could earn in 5 years. Tears began to well up in Sophia's eyes. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I wanted to be sure. And because I wanted you to come to this conclusion on your own. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. Elena's revelation had changed her entire understanding of the situation. Matteo hadn't just been listening during their conversations. He had cared enough about Elena's family to help anonymously and generously. She got up and turned on her computer, something she had avoided doing for weeks. She searched for news about Matteo Castellanos. The most recent articles showed a different man than the one she had met at the hotel. In the photos, he looked serious, distant, completely focused on work. The headlines talked about his triumphant return to the company, about how he had managed to restore investor confidence after the scandal. But in no photo did she see him smile, as she had seen him smile at the hotel. One particular article caught her attention. Castellanos Hotels announces new hospitality philosophy focused on authentic experiences. She read the entire article. Matteo had implemented changes throughout the hotel chain, focusing on training staff to create genuine connections with guests, not just provide luxury service. True hospitality, the article quoted, is not about impressing someone with what you have, but about making each person feel seen, valued, and welcome, just as they are. Sophia recognized her own words in that philosophy. The next day, Elena found her reading a newspaper during her break. "What are you reading?" "Matteo is inaugurating a new hotel in Mendoza this weekend. It's a very important event to restore the company's reputation." "And? I think I made a mistake, Elena." "What kind of mistake?" "I judged his actions without understanding his motives. He wasn't playing with me. He was protecting himself. And in the process, he protected me too." "How?" "If I had known who he was from day one, would I have been able to relax and be myself with him? Or would I have been nervous, trying to impress him?" Elena smiled. "Probably the latter." "Exactly. And he was also able to be himself with me, without his last name, without his money, without all the pressure that comes with being who he is." "What are you going to do?" Sophia looked at Matteo's photo in the newspaper. He looked successful, but lonely. "I'm going to Mendoza." "Are you crazy? You don't have money for that." "I'll use my savings, the ones I had saved for emergencies." "And what are you going to tell him?" "The truth. That I understand him, that I forgive him, and that I love him." Elena hugged her tightly. "It's very risky, honey." "I know, but some risks are worth it." That night, Sophia bought a bus ticket to Mendoza. The 12-hour journey would give her time to think exactly what she wanted to tell Matteo. It would also give her time to decide if she was ready to love someone whose world was so different from hers. But one thing was sure. She couldn't keep living with the doubt of what would have happened if she had fought for the love she had found, even if it had started with a lie. As the bus pulled away from Buenos Aires towards the Mendoza Mountains, Sophia felt for the first time in weeks that she was making the right decision. It was time to go for what she wanted, no matter how terrifying the outcome. The elegant hall of the new Castellanos Hotel in Mendoza was filled with executives, politicians, and journalists. Sophia felt completely out of place in the dress Elena had lent her, but she had come this far and wasn't going to back down. From a corner of the hall, she watched Matteo as he gave his inaugural speech. He was impeccably dressed, but there was something different about him. His eyes had lost that warmth she had known at the hotel. "The hospitality industry has changed a lot in recent years," Matteo was saying into the microphone. "Guests are no longer just looking for luxury. They're looking for authenticity. They're looking to feel like people, not numbers." Sophia felt her heart race. Those were exactly the conversations they had had at the hotel. "I recently learned that true hospitality isn't about impressing someone with what you have, but about making them feel comfortable with who they are. It's about creating spaces where people can be authentic, where they can let down their guard and just be." Matteo paused, and for a moment he seemed to be searching for something in the crowd. Someone taught me that every guest arrives with their own story and leaves with a new one. Our job is to make sure that new story is better than the last. Applause filled the hall, but Matteo seemed distracted. He finished his speech faster than planned and began to greet the important guests. Sophia took a deep breath and began to move through the crowd, trying to get closer to him. Executives and journalists formed a constant barrier around Matteo, all wanting to talk to him. Finally, she managed to get close enough for him to see her. When their eyes met across the crowded hall, Matteo froze completely. He abruptly excused himself from the group of investors surrounding him and walked directly toward her, ignoring the confused glances and murmurs around him. "Sophia," he said when he stood in front of her, his voice barely a whisper. "You came." "I had to," she replied, feeling tears threaten to appear. "I had to tell you something." "Here?" Matteo looked around the crowded hall. "Especially here, in front of your whole world." "Sophia." "No, let me speak first," she interrupted him. "I understood something. What you did, lying about your identity, you didn't do it to hurt me. You did it because you needed to find someone who saw you for who you really are, not for what you represent." Matteo looked at her in surprise. "How?" "Elena told me about the hospital, about the anonymous payment for her mother." Matteo blushed slightly. "That wasn't—" "Yes, it matters, because it showed me that everything I felt between us was real. Your gentleness, your pain, your way of listening. Everything was genuine." "Of course it was genuine. I love you, Sophia." The words came out so naturally that several nearby guests turned to look at them. "I love you too," Sophia said, no longer caring who might hear. "And if you still want to try, if you still believe we can work, despite our different worlds." Matteo didn't let her finish. He took her in his arms and kissed her passionately. Right there, in the middle of the elegant hall, filled with Mendoza's elite, murmurs turned to silence, and then to scattered applause as people realized what they were witnessing. When they finally broke apart, Matteo pressed his forehead against hers. "Are you sure?" he asked in a low voice. "My life is complicated. There's constant pressure, media, expectations." "I'm sure," Sophia responded, "but with one condition. Anything, no more lies. If we're going to do this, we do it with complete honesty. I promise you." Matteo smiled, and for the first time in weeks, Sophia saw the same warmth in his eyes that she had known at the hotel. "Although that means I have to tell you something else. All this new focus on authentic hospitality that I'm implementing in the company is based on everything I learned from you. You're changing an entire hotel chain without even realizing it." Sophia laughed. "Really? Really? In fact," Matteo took her hands, "I was thinking we might need someone with real experience in authentic hospitality to help train the staff. Someone who understands what it means to make every guest feel special." "Are you offering me a job?" "I'm offering you a partnership, in business and in life." Sophia felt her heart might explode with happiness. "And what about all these people?" she asked, looking around the hall where guests watched them curiously. "They'll get used to it," Matteo said, taking her hand. "Because the woman I love isn't going to change to fit into my world. My world is going to change to include her." A journalist quickly approached with a camera, but Matteo stopped him with a smile. "No problem with photos," he told him. "But I want it to be clear. This is Sofia Delgado, the most extraordinary woman I've met. And if you're going to write about us, be sure to mention that she's the one revolutionizing our way of understanding hospitality." Sophia blushed but stood firm beside him. "Are you ready for this?" Matteo asked her. "Because once we leave here together, there's no turning back." "I've been ready since I decided to take that 12-hour bus to come here." Matteo laughed and kissed her once more, sealing not only their reconciliation, but the beginning of a new life they would build together, based on honesty, genuine love, and the belief that the best stories sometimes begin with the most fortunate mistakes. As they walked out of the hall hand in hand, Sophia knew she was entering a completely new world, but she also knew she was doing it with someone who loved her exactly as she was, and who was willing to change his own world to create a space where both could be completely authentic. 6 months had passed since that night in Mendoza that changed their lives forever. Sophia woke up in her new home, a cozy apartment above the first hotel of their new chain, located in a restored historic building in San Telmo. Through the window, she could see the morning bustle of Buenos Aires waking up, but now she saw it from a completely different perspective. "Good morning, my love," Matteo murmured, giving her a soft kiss on the forehead as he brought her a cup of coffee. "Ready for another day revolutionizing the hotel industry?" Sophia smiled, taking the cup in her hands. It still felt surreal that this was her life now. The wedding had been exactly as they had dreamed, intimate and authentic. They were married in the neighborhood church where Sophia had grown up, followed by a celebration in her mother's backyard. Matteo's high society friends mingled with Sophia's working-class family, creating a party that perfectly reflected the union of their two worlds. Elena had been her maid of honor, radiant with happiness and health. Her mother's treatment had been successful, and she now worked as the general supervisor of Casa Sofia, bringing her 15 years of experience to the new project. "Look at this," Matteo said, showing her his tablet as they had breakfast. "Reservations for next month are completely full, and we have a waiting list." Casa Sofia had been a success since the day it opened. The concept was revolutionary in its simplicity. A boutique hotel where every guest was treated like a beloved friend. There were no rigid protocols or excessive formalities, only genuine hospitality and personalized attention. "What does the review say from that tourism critic who was here last week?" Sophia asked. Matteo smiled as he read. "He says Casa Sofia has redefined what luxury hospitality means, that it's not about impressing with expensive objects, but about making each person feel truly welcome." "Your father would have been proud of this," Sophia said, referring to the conversations they had had about the original dreams of the Castellanos Hotel's founder. "I think so." Matteo took her hand. "And yours too would have been proud to see how you're preserving guest stories from all over the world." They had created something special together. Casa Sofia was just the first of what they planned to be a small chain of boutique hotels. Each property would be unique, reflecting the local culture, but maintaining the same philosophy of authentic hospitality. Sophia managed daily operations, applying everything she had learned about making people feel special. Matteo handled business strategy and finances, but always with the new understanding that success was measured as much in genuine smiles as in numbers. "Do you know what I like most about all this?" Sophia said, as they reviewed guest comments on their tablet. "What? That we're creating exactly the kind of place I would have loved to stay in when I was a child, dreaming of traveling the world?" Elena appeared at the apartment door, as she had every morning since they opened. "Good morning, lovebirds. Ready to welcome the American family arriving today?" "The family celebrating their 25th wedding anniversary, right?" Sophia asked. "Exactly. And I already have the surprise they planned prepared." Elena smiled. "Sometimes I can't believe this is my job now." It was true that Elena had flourished in her new role. She was no longer just a floor supervisor. She was a fundamental piece in creating memorable experiences for their guests. That afternoon, as Sophia helped a newlywed couple plan a tour of Buenos Aires, Matteo watched her from the reception desk. He still couldn't believe his luck in having found her. The scandal that had devastated his previous life now seemed like a gift from destiny. His brother Carlos had visited the hotel the week before, finally willing to have an honest conversation about what had happened. The reconciliation had been difficult, but necessary. "What are you thinking about?" Sophia asked, approaching him when she finished with the guests. "How strange life is. 7 months ago, I was the most miserable man in the world. And now what? Now I have everything I never knew I wanted. A job I love, an extraordinary wife, and the feeling that every day we're building something that truly matters." Sophia approached and hugged him. "You know what's most ironic about all of this?" "What?" "That your mistake at the hotel was actually the smartest decision anyone has ever made for me. You gave me exactly what I needed, exactly when I needed it." "You mean the confusion with Mr. Romano?" "No," Sophia smiled. "I mean, you gave me the opportunity to see who you really were, without all the things that defined you on paper. You gave me the opportunity to fall in love with the man, not the last name." Matteo kissed her softly. "Then I guess we should thank happy mistakes." Definitely. As the sun set over San Telmo, Sophia and Matteo reviewed the plans for their second hotel, which they would open in Bariloche next year. They had learned that true love is not just about finding the right person, but about creating the life they both want to live together. Casa Sofia was not just a hotel. It was living proof that when two people commit to being authentic with each other, they can build something beautiful that benefits everyone around them. And every night, when they turned off the lobby lights and went up to their apartment, they knew they had found something no amount of money could buy. A love built on the solid foundation of honesty, mutual respect, and the shared belief that the best love stories often begin with the most fortunate misunderstandings in the world. This story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the best things come from unexpected turns, and that genuine connections can overcome any obstacle. What was the most surprising revelation in Sophia and Matteo's story for you? Share your thoughts in the comments below.